the DORK Podcast with Rich Keith. It's the DORK Podcast. Ryan David. It's the DORK Podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag DORK Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs. He is Rin Rararin Von Din Dejarin. All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, weather.
Just having a night.
You having a hell of a time?
Yep. Bruins won today.
Sure did.
I don't know how the Celtics are doing.
Listen, I'm not Floyd Mayweather who tells everybody what they bet on and then tells how well he did only when he wins. But I did have a hunch that Brad Marchand was going to score the first goal of the game, and he did.
Winner chicken dinner.
I'll take that to the bank, baby.
Love it. You love to see it.
You love to see it. You're going to lose the rest of it probably tonight or tomorrow. That's the beauty of gambling right there.
That's why it keeps you coming back, right?
Yes,
Never
sure
done.
does. Sure does. Right. To say we have a lot to get to would be a gross misjustice of the truth. So let's get right into it.
This week in DORK.
I was trying to come up with like the saying we have a lot to get to would be an insult to a lot of things you got to get to
on the docket.
That wasn't cumbersome at all to say.
No. Cumbersome. Good track there. A little Seven Mary 30.
It's a good song.
Fucking rips. Dude, I've been going down these music rabbit holes. I told you how I'm now all in on Apple Music.
Yeah.
I don't care where you get your music, but basically like you can just stream nonstop.
Once someone says you can listen to anything you want whenever you want, your life becomes a lot easier to deal with.
And it blows your mind because you're like, where do I go? But then my ADHD, I'm like, I listen to this song and I'm like, well, now I got to hear another band. Now I got to hear another band. Now I got to hear another band. I'm like,
yeah, it like kicks you off. Like you start thinking about like other songs I listen to, or I had a mix CD with this on it and this other song was on it. I was listening to some like Glassjaw the other day. I went way far down. Yeah.
I haven't heard Taproot in a while, but I was in on Taproot over the weekend. I also, but I'm telling you, like, there's certain ones that just put you in a place. And our junior year basketball warm-up track was Jurassic 5. And so I put on a little Jurassic 5, just takes me right there. Takes me right there. I got vetoed, by the way. I wanted all like death metal for the warm-up, and they said no. They said no. No, can't do that. We're trying to get a sweat going, just trying to warm up a little bit. We don't need to be, raging out this hard. But Ryan, some dork news to share with everybody.
Yeah.
It appears as though, and this hasn't been finalized, I don't believe, but Adam Driver looks like he is going to be Reed Richards' Mr. Fantastic whenever they make this Fantastic Four film. What do you think of that casting?
See, I don't mind it. I think he's a good, they've proven time and again, you can be a really good actor and still do these kinds of things that are kind of fun. So dude's at the height of his game. Reed Richards is going to be a very important character moving forward, and they must be paying him out the ass. So that's my assessment is that they probably came to the table like, we will give you this much money or this many points on every movie you're in. And he's like, done deal.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I do think, he's a great actor. I wonder how he's going to fit it with this. I think just as important, though, is the chemistry between he and Sue Storm, between he and Johnny, and between he and Ben Grimm. Like those four clearly need to have really good rapport. So like if he's good on a one-off, like, okay, so be it. And I also wonder, what's he going to sound like? Is he just going to sound like Adam Driver? Is he going to sound like Kylo Ren? Is he going to sound like, because Mr. Fantastic's one of the smartest people in the entire MCU. So,
and pretty charismatic too. It's not as arrogant as Strange or Tony Stark, but he has like that little bit of swagger to him, which is nice.
And can go toe to toe with those guys, like no problem.
Yep.
And he can stretch out. And as Brody in Mallrats asked Stan Lee once, does everything stretch? Yeah.
I'm told that 4 inches is enough. It's plenty.
It's not
so maybe he doesn't have to.
Yeah, it's how you use
no, but I think it's going to be important for Spider-Man 2 moving forward because isn't Reed Richards and Peter Parker cross paths many times.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but if you figure Robert Downey Jr. is either done or like close to done, whatever. And like Chris Evans is done or close to done, and like some of these like characters are getting phased out, or the actors, I should say, are getting phased out. if you're just now casting Reed Richards, he should probably be in like 8 movies.
Yeah. I still think, and I hold on to, I know I've said this several times on the podcast, but when they do Ironheart, I think there needs to be something where Tony Stark uploaded all of his consciousness to like an AI just in case.
Yeah,
And
you
he is
hear
the voice of
his
Riri
voice.
Williams' suit.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
And it'll be like quippy, and he'll like be making fun of her the whole time that she's doing
Yeah.
things incorrectly. I think
Yeah.
that would be rather nice. But
That'd be good. That'd be really good. That's definitely a possibility on that. So yeah, let us know. I feel like this was polarizing. We tweeted it out at Dork Podcast, and feel like half the people were like, "Oh yeah, Adam Driver would be great at this." Half the people are like, "Yeah, he's good, but I don't really like him as this character." So we shall see. Evil Dead Rise, one of your most highly anticipated movies of the year, came out this weekend. Did you get a chance to see it?
not yet.
Me neither. Me neither. Got to see it.
I'm going to see it. Yep.
On Roddy T's right now, 84% critics, 81% audience. But I would say on a horror movie, anytime critic score is like above 75, chances are it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't always trust the critics, but I'm just saying, like, if even they like the horror movie, that's typically a good sign.
And and it, from just everything we've seen of it, it looks
Scary as fuck.
horrifying. And
Looks
but there,
pretty-
you could tell there is room for funny things in there.
Yeah.
Because it's so dark and so gory and so weird that
yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Based strictly off the trailer, it looks like the scariest movie in like years. So
Right.
yeah, I'll try to see it. I forget if we have something lined up for next week or not, or if we should postpone it and maybe do Evil Dead next week. Maybe.
Let's both see it and then make that call.
There you go. That's probably what we should do. I did see the movie Ghosted, which is currently streaming on Apple Plus. You're shaking your head. Did you see it?
Not yet.
So it's Ana de Armas and Chris Evans.
Just beautiful people being
The
beautiful people together.
Beautiful people, the movie. So it's a rom-com, but you can't really have rom-coms anymore, just straight out rom-coms for some reason. So they need to be doing action things, action adventures. They need to get shot at. They need to shoot guns.
Up the stakes a little bit.
So I'll tell you this, I probably would give it like a 3.5, but only because of who was in it. Like if you just put 2 jabronis and had the same script, you have zero interest in it. Like it's solely because it's Ana de Armas and it's Chris Evans. And minor spoiler, I'll give you a minor spoiler because you're not going to watch it anyway. Or if you are, this won't bother you. There's some other cameos too. Like there's some big time famous people that aren't in the movie very long. So that kind of thing where you're like, oh yeah, ha, ha, ha. And I don't know, it's cheese. Like the dialogue stinks. Like some of the dialogue is bad, but I'd probably go 3.5.
It's bad.
I had like no expectation for it, and it's free, and they're both great. So I probably go 3.5.
It's mindless. It's just one of those things you in and out of in a hour and a half.
No, it was if you chop off the end of the credits, it's like an hour 49.
Okay.
So it probably could have been even less, but it says the runtime's like 159, but it's not. It's like 149 probably.
Good. I'm getting blamed for your spoilers now in the chat.
Yeah, listen, there's cameos.
I didn't say anything.
That was me.
I haven't even seen the movie.
Davey Spoilers is a better nickname than Keith Spoilers. Or
Richie Spoiler. Keith. Yeah, I guess.
Spoiler Keith. That stinks. Davey anything is way better.
It's way better. Yeah.
Way better. The Boogeyman had another trailer. This movie comes out June 2nd. This also looks kind of creepy.
It looks hopefully
Stephen King.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
This is creepy. Yeah.
All right, so there's a lot of TV shows, and like I've said every week, I'm up to my hog in TV shows. I have so many that I'm watching. A few that I know you're not watching, like Succession, but the ones that we're both watching. What did you think of the first 2 episodes of Barry?
Oh, super intense. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching it right after this.
Yeah, that show is, and this is the last season, right? Season 4, Barry.
Mhm.
They've also found a way to, like, their supporting characters are so goddamn good.
Oh, and stakes. We don't know what's going to happen with the show because you said they've said that this is the last season. So
yeah, all bets are off.
all
Does
bets
Barry
are
survive the season?
probably not.
No, I don't think so. Now, you said you heard an interview with Bill Hader where he was like, "Don't worry, there's going to be some laughs."
Yeah,
and there were some, but like I think it's still going to be pretty dark or like serious.
Yeah, I mean, what's her name? Her, I forget the
girlfriend.
Yeah, Sally. She was her interaction with like her mother, like this. boyfriend just is a serial killer, and she's like trying to talk to her about it, and she's like, "You're raising your voice."
Yeah. Oh, her
Like
parents,
that.
her parents are tough. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that was wild, but it
You
was
can see why Sally's the way Sally is based on
oh yeah,
the
and
parents.
I was chuckling sometimes, but it wasn't like like
As Christopher says, we're like, haha, I'm kind of scared. Like, yeah,
yeah, and
there's a lot going on.
I still once in a while I'll watch when he goes to get the guy at the house and he winds up being like a taekwondo master and he like
Oh my
crushes
god.
the guy's windpipe. I still think about that every once in a while and just laugh.
That was
You
one of
could
the
hear the
first
guy coming.
wasn't that one of the first episodes he directed it? I think.
Yes.
And he directs every episode this season.
Right.
Hater's crazy. Like what
It's
a
crazy.
great show.
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. But I got off with an absolute bang. Dave,
Pretty good.
this was probably the weakest of the episodes. However, our girl was in it.
Yeah.
Taylor
Mishak. Yep.
So she wasn't in the first 3 episodes.
Allie's back.
Allie. So she was in this episode. So it was good. The first 3 were like next level. The first 3 were all like 6 out of 6 episodes. This one was pretty good.
But Dave, the character, still continuing to bat 1,000 with his weekly love interests.
Oh my god! Oh, this girl was great.
Yeah, and photographer. By the way, she's holding. I could just be. First of all, the way she was holding the camera, I was like, "There's no way you're seeing the pictures you're taking." And she had her hand on like the focus ring and like kept like moving it. Like, stop it.
Horseshit.
But the wrong way. Yeah.
Horseshit.
But
the photos aren't even usable.
You know why this was the weakest episode of the season so far?
Why is that?
He didn't rap.
No, he didn't.
Gata did. He still peeing on girls, but that was about it.
That was actually kind of funny. Our guy Gata. Gata loves us. Big fans.
Yeah.
And you're usually 1 episode ahead of me. Did you also watch this week's Yellow Jackets already?
Yes.
What'd you think?
They're clearly setting something up. It's just kind of taking a little too long.
So I disagree with you on episode 4. So I haven't seen the 5th one, but the 4th one I actually really liked. And I think that there was a couple of big reveals. I won't say what they were, but there was a couple of like things that we didn't know that happened in that episode. So I like it a lot. Like one, well, I don't want to even get into it, but good. Like I thought it was pretty good.
I just need to know what's going on in the woods. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that is now more important than what's current. Like you need to do more of that.
More wood stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's still a good ping pong back and forth, but
like there was someone who came back. Oh shit. But what's going on with that character? I could be talking about anybody. I could be talking about anybody right
I know
now,
you could be, but you just kind of fucked us. I'll edit that out of the podcast. Out of those 3 right now, which is your current favorite? Barry, Dave, and Yellow Jackets?
Probably Dave.
Dave is hitting the highest batting average.
Yeah.
Dave's crazy. I love Yellow Jackets.
So
one thing I do like is in Yellow Jackets, you get Christina Ricci and Elijah Wood in a bunch of scenes together. And that's gonna be pretty cool for them. Like they've both both child actors. They've been in the game for a fucking long time. And the shit they're doing is pretty sweet. So
and every time I see them on screen together, you know what my thought is? If she were standing on his shoulders, they could probably look me in the eye.
Yeah, they're not super tall.
No, they're tiny people.
No,
I think she's 5'1" and he's like 5'3".
Yeah, she might even be 5 on the nose, but yeah.
Yeah.
They're
not. Yeah.
I am a big fan of
Put it right in your pocket.
Yes, you could. All right, let's get to this.
It's time for Davey's video game minute. Even if it takes more than a minute.
This will take less than a minute, I promise you. So I didn't mention last week, God of War now has the new game plus, which I'm about to try. I did mention that. So that's pretty interesting. I try to get back into it just to see like what it was like. I completely forgot how to play that game. The controls are airtight. They're so good, but they're kind of unique. So you've been playing different games with different, like I've been playing Resident Evil 4 and PGA Tour. So like my controls are so
not
messed up. It's really hard. I would say, I mean, you ask me all the time, you're like, how do you play all these games? I think that's the hardest thing about it is remembering how to play all of these games.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it for me. I mean, I'm like, all right, I gotta at least finish and beat this game because I have like my mind is wrapped around the controls of this game and this game only. And so like the ping pong back and forth is tough.
I think I can keep 3 in my head straight.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Which is but speaking of controllers and controlling things, so I downloaded the new Street Fighter 6 demo, which you can get on any console now. You can play as this character that introduced late last in Street Fighter 5, character Luke, who's like become kind of like a fan favorite in terms of like competitive play and all that stuff. So and Ryu, you can play as both of them. And one of the coolest things that they've introduced is this new control system. So basically, all of the special inputs that you used to have to do, you don't have to do them anymore. So it's become like a Smash Brothers set of controls where like you have, so if I'm holding the controller like this, so like X or on, what is it on? It's X on a, no, it's A. So
Xbox?
like, so like the bottom would be, so like around the bottom would be like weak, medium, strong attacks, and the top button, the triangle button, is like your special attack. So you don't have to do special inputs anymore.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it actually, you get less moves, so you can do less things. Well, so the trade-off is like it's harder to control, but you get full customization, and the other one you don't. So it's kind of like I know Street Fighter fans are going to be completely split on this, and I already see you shaking your head like, no, give me the old quarter circle punch.
I think so. For me, give me the old stuff. I don't
it's
like
hard to, it's hard to do too. But if you're a player who plays a lot of Smash, plays a lot of even Tekken, like it probably will make more sense to you.
Okay.
Down the road. But that was the most interesting thing I found, plus the graphics and like the intros they do. So it was cool. Like you pick out your 2 characters and then they do like a thing where they like walk down the tunnel like together, and it says like versus. So they're looking at each other and like cracking their knuckles and stuff. So that was actually pretty cool. But if you haven't picked up that demo yet, check it out. It's cool.
All right. Very good.
That's it. That's it for me, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. Very appreciate that. Y'all ready for Bisque? Topic is your time. Well, I'm glad you asked. It's the topic of the day. And today it is The Mandalorian Season 3. It ran on Disney Plus. 8 total episodes, like every other season. So now 24 total episodes in The Mandalorian. We will begin, as we do with all of our TV and movie reviews, spoiler-free. Mandalorian Season 3. Ryan, did you like it?
Sure. Yeah. It's great. Wow.
Right. Great.
It's not great.
It's great.
It's good. It's good. I mean, I look forward to it every week.
I like it. I like it a lot. Well, I like the idea a lot. I like the Mandalorian a lot.
Sure.
I like Star Wars a lot.
Did you find yourself every week being like, all right, it's Wednesday, like I'm excited to watch it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones where, so my little peek behind my curtain, if you will, little peek up my skirt.
There you go. Let me see it.
I have
what that thing do?
The Dragon's Lair down here, where I'm currently where I'm sitting right now.
Yes.
I also have the old big Haas TV in front of me, and I have the surround sound system. And then like upstairs in the family room, we have like what was like my original like big screen TV, which is smaller than this one. No surround sound. And that's where like me and my wife will watch shows that we watch together, which aren't many, but those are the ones we watch together. Or like, if I'm eating lunch, maybe I'll watch something up there. Long story short, Mandalorian's one of those. I gotta watch it down here because it sounds fucking awesome. It's Star Wars. It's in the Dolby Atmos and it cranks. And so like, I always look forward to it for that. I think it adds to the whole enjoyment of that show. But at the same time, there were a few episodes where you're like, all right, well, let's get them next week.
Probably could have watched that one upstairs.
Yeah, right. I would have been fine on watching it on my phone.
Yep.
No, but like you definitely could have had the same enjoyment somewhere else because like it was, I don't know, like there were a lot of complaints, and we would hit on it briefly here and there throughout the last 2 months that it was on. Even if you liked it, and I hope that you did, if people out there, let us know in the chat too. By the way, we're gonna get to our scores coming up. Even if you liked it, there's no way you liked it as much as the first or second season.
I hope not.
I don't know how, unless it's unless you're like recency bias and then some. Because even I, who am recency bias rich, can see the fact that 1 and 2. And so I looked this up. So thanks to the dudes. Remember the dudes that did all the legwork and they found all of our old episodes and they put
Well, we scored everything.
Yeah, they posted
Yep.
what the ratings were. So do you even remember off the top of your head what we ranked or scored season 1 and season 2?
5.5s for me, both.
So we actually had the same scores for each. Season 1, we both gave a 5, and season 2, we both gave a 5.5. So yeah, you're pretty close. And I think that's probably right. Like, I think the first one was good, but there was a couple of there was an episode or two where like, all right, not really much happened, or kind of slow, kind of whatever. Season 2, I like so much more. Season 2 is the Ahsoka Tano episode, which is one of my favorite of the entire series.
Yeah.
Um,
rivaled only with the Cad Bane episode of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like Boba Fett and Obi-Wan were 2 shows that had a couple of really cool things. Most shit.
Yeah.
Whereas, and then you have like Andor, which was almost all great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is clearly the weakest of the 3. What did you make of? And I usually ask the story, but I guess like the stories that sort of took place this season.
So the main track I think is still really good. It's still really solid. Like where they're going with this, how the Mandalorians come and go, and like what they're getting them back together in a sense under one flag is kind of the main storyline, right? And then you have these things like there were some other stories that were kind of cool and ones that were really stupid.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what hurt it. And there's like, we'll get to it, but there's one glaring thing. And if you look at the episodes, there's one glaring thing, one standout there. Like, why did you do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that hurts.
Could have just, yeah.
When there's only 8 episodes, if you do this, like the first couple seasons of Daredevil, not that there was really a bad episode, but they were like 13 episodes. So if you have like one shit episode and 12 good to great, you can overlook it. But when there's only 8, like that one stands out even more. And the one that we're talking about is also the longest episode of the 8.
God, was it ever?
Which was, both literally and just like feels like.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I agree with you on that. The action, there were times where it was really, really good. Like it was some of like really good Star Wars stuff,
mm-hmm.
And
then there was some stuff that was just like really silly.
Yeah.
And the tone was kind of all off this season. And I know that sounds fart sniffy, but like,
no, I hear you.
Yeah. Like we'll talk about it when we break down the episodes, but like there was several tones here that we could have gone with. And it was like week to week. And even like halfway through the episode, like this is either really fucking silly. And then it got really serious. So be Andor or don't be Andor. Be Andor or be, I don't know. What's a more kiddie one? You get what I'm saying?
I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. Question in the chat. The Dragon's Lair, I have a split level house. So like half the house is downstairs, half the house is upstairs, is how I look at it. So this is down. The Dragon's Lair is in the basement. Yeah. Always nice and cool down here.
Nice and cute. Dragons like it cool.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
This has got something to do with the blood. Comedy? Did you laugh? Was there a couple of chuckles, I guess?
I'll tell you what, my children laughed at one thing and they won't stop laughing, or 2 things and they won't stop laughing about it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I guess that's good.
I don't know if it's a spoiler to tell you what they are yet.
I don't know either.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to say it.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I will say the connection to the Star Wars universe was pretty strong in this. And I think when you talk to several different fans of The Mandalorian, you're not going to get everybody to agree on whether they want it to be its own isolated show completely, or if they want it to be a show that ties in very directly with the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a good case for both, in all seriousness. And me personally, I like the connections. Now, I don't think every character needs to be related to the same 5 characters. Like, I don't think that needs to be the case. But if you're in a universe where certain things are going on, I don't know, you can mix in a reference or 2. Like, I don't mind that. I think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the episodes in this season that did that, I actually really liked. So no complaints from me when it comes into tying in other characters or other storylines.
And I think what this does too is there are those tie-ins that you get that are right in your face, and then there are some that are more subtle.
Yes.
We got a couple subtle ones this season too, which I really, if you're a fan of just everything Star Wars, then you're a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
That little tiny crumb that they give you, and we'll talk about a couple of those, obviously. But
yeah.
But then some bigger cameos that you're If you just know the name Star Wars, you're going to know who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else spoiler free, what is your hashtag dork score for season 3?
It's a 4.5.
So I went back and forth on this. I hemmed and hawed, and then I hawed and hemmed. It pains me to say it. 4.
Okay.
It's like the strongest of the 4s. I'm sure there's not going to be any 4 shows better than that. It'll be at the high end of the 4. But as much as there were things that I really liked about it, there were enough things where I was like, what the fuck? And so I think it needed to have a bigger gap from season 1 for me too. So if I gave season 1 a 5, then I think this is more of a 4 for me.
And for me, I gave it since by the way, I was teetering between 4 and 4.5 too, but you told me, I thought I gave them both 4 and 5.5.
Yeah.
So for me, like this teeters between the two, but since it's the worst of the 3 in my mind, so I'm going to give that. But it's still really good.
No, I know, and like
it's just not as good.
Like I don't know if we've ever really discussed this, but like as far as when we give reviews of stuff, I would say a 4 is still worth watching.
Yeah, definitely.
and then some, and like I have no problem watching it. And as we've gone over, I feel like I've finally figured out the grading system, even though we've been doing it for like 6 years. I finally figured it out, and I've as you've noticed, I've given out way more 3.5s and things like that, where I'm like, it wasn't a complete bag of shit, but like it's not really recommendable. And so this is without question recommendable, but I'm going to go 4. So it's still better than Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's still better than Boba Fett, but it's not as good as Andor. It's not as good as the first 2 seasons of this. And it's really in totality not as good as like Clone Wars or Rebels.
Yeah. And for I'm thinking about it now too, that you said it, like when I give something a 6. So 6 to me is like, you are required, if you're going to listen to this podcast anymore, you need to see this. Like this is required viewing. This shit's homework. Like you need to go see that.
Yeah.
5 is like a must watch. 4 is like, we would recommend it. If someone was like, was this good? You'd be like, yeah. 3 is forgettable.
Yeah.
And if you get below a 3, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get a 1. It's really hard.
Because that's the other thing, is because famously you can't watch everything. So if we go into it, like we're already hand selecting certain things to watch. So that's why like we've given out, I think only the one, and that was Jupiter's Legacy.
Yes.
And probably only a couple of 2s, not a ton of 2. We definitely have, but like
I think you gave. Strikes me. I think you gave the Hellboy reboot a 2, and I gave it like a 4.
Yeah, that might be right.
I love that movie.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I still love it. It's so bad.
Here's a good question from our guy Josh in the chat. How many Star Wars properties are rock hard, laser beams, monkey dick 6s?
1.
Just Empire?
Just Empire.
Yeah, you didn't give Rogue One a 6? Probably not.
Probably it's a 5. That's
Close.
A 5 for me.
Man, yeah, because
because at that point there's Jedi. No, there are no Jedi.
In Rogue One?
Yeah, there's Donnie Yen, but like he's turned himself up. But
yeah, but you get Darth
former
Vader.
Jedi.
You get Darth Vader scene.
So that's a 5.5. It's not a 6 though.
Yeah, I think, man, you know what? I think we did that one. We can go back to the same spreadsheet. I think we probably did give it a 5.5. Clone Wars and Rebels to me are. I don't think you can't give them a 6 only because there's so many. Like there are moments where it's a 6. There might even be a season or 2 that it's a 6. But if you're grading the entire thing, you can't go 6 or even 1.
And again, this show veers a little bit. They veer way off the track and come back on those shows. So it's hard.
They do like 22 episodes. Some of them, right? Some of the seasons. And then, what about the original though? I might go Empire and like episode 4. That might be a 6.
No, I don't give. On principle, I don't give that movie a 6. Do you know why I don't give that movie a 6?
Too much.
Too much nudity. Yeah. No.
Too much full penetration.
They didn't give Chewie a medal.
Yeah.
I don't care for that.
Why do you think that is?
Racists.
Yeah.
All the white guys got medals. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Fuck. You're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Or so that knocks it down at least a half stone.
Seriously.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, because Andor, I think we both gave 5.5s to, so that's close.
Mm-hmm.
And then Phantom Menace. Just kidding. That's a good question. Like it is funny, and I acknowledge it. Like I view Star Wars very similar to X-Men, where like I love every fucking X-Men thing that you could possibly throw at me, and I understand that half of it's shit, and like I'll still watch it and I'll still like eat it up like a fucking pot roast.
Yep.
All right, so that's non-spoiler. So Davey's going 4.5. I'm going 4. You can let us know at Dork Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. You can email us dorkpodcast@gmail.com. Maybe I'm too harsh on it. We'll hash it out right now as we get to spoilers.
Spoilers! 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 Here come the spoilers!
All right, so episode 1 is chapter 17, The Apostate, where Mando helps Grief Karga fight off some pirates. You get Babu Frick.
Now, they said that they're the Ancellans, but they never said his name. But it does look an awful lot like him.
I feel like the lead guy's got to be Babu.
It's got to be Babu, but they just called him the Ancellans.
Yeah,
right?
because he's trying to rebuild IG-11, which is a good call because IG-11, as voiced by Taika Waititi in the first ever episode of The Mandalorian, was a great character, a great droid. And so trying to bring him back, and that kind of comes off and on throughout this season as well. But that's pretty good stuff. And right away, another connection with a character that debuted in, I guess let's call it the new trilogy, or the Skywalker saga, whatever you want to call it, 7, 8, and 9, Babu Frick. And because this takes place in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, actually a little bit closer to Jedi, I believe. So the fact that Babu Frick is already kind of operating in this world, he knows Grief Karga. I'll take it. I like it.
This is laugh number 1 that my children have.
Okay.
Laughing at the bad baby, no squeezy.
Love it.
They thought that was the coolest thing. Anytime Grogu's on the screen, I tell them to come look because I don't know what, but like, oh, come see. And now my younger daughter like brought something to me the other day. I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? She's Daboken. Like, you have to figure. I'm like, all right. She just meant putting batteries in it, but she said it like,
of course.
No, Daboken. Like, okay. I get it.
So you know what? Pretty good.
But see, here's the thing about that's cool about like kids is like my kids are getting now to the point where like they get references and will kick flip off of references.
Fucking
so
great. Yeah.
So she comes up to me, it was like a walkie-talkie. She's like, Daboken, right? And I go, all right. And my older daughter pokes her head around the corner and she goes, she wants you to fix it.
Yeah.
And I go, I got it. Like
I understand the reference.
I got it.
Yeah.
No, but she was like what Carl Weathers was doing.
Yeah, she's translating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, even though I can understand her. Yeah.
By the way, Carl Weathers and this whole thing, like
so campy, so goofy. Like I thought the whole season was going to be like this because you have him being like he's literally doing the fists on the hips thing.
But he's acting in like a different show, and I know it's a weird show, but it's like, hey, dude, we're not all doing this. But
it's not the Princess Bride,
right?
Like he's doing like the Prince, like a Humperdinck thing, and I don't get that. I didn't get Space Swamp Thing. That seemed to me really goofy.
No, Chard. What the fuck was his name?
He looked like a plate of kale, like a plate of wet kale.
Yeah, Gorian Shard.
More like
Gorian Shard,
right?
What I would say. Also in episode 1, Mando goes to meet with Bo-Katan, and she's just like alone, chilling in a castle all by herself.
Doing that thing where she's got one leg on the arm of the throne, leaning back, waiting for someone to come call him. There's nobody there.
Nobody there. What are you doing? That's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's a cool visual. But when you stop and take 2 seconds to be like, why is she dressed up? Why is she sitting there? Does she do that all the time?
She's ready to go, no matter what.
She's ready to go when no one's around. How do you what do you do?
You see people coming. Like you're the only shop in town. If you see a spaceship, it's coming to see you. Like,
I do love Bo-Katan though. Bo-Katan was the MVP of the whole season.
MVP of the season for sure.
That's another thing. Like that's an argument that I don't have a problem with when they were like, oh, like the Mandalorian, it's not even about the Mandalorian. It's like, well, no, it's about this Mandalorian, and she's better. So I have no problem with that.
That character is way more compelling than a guy who, I mean, how many seasons of a guy who barely talks can we do?
Yeah.
And I get it, it's Pedro Pascal, but like,
no, he's cool. I like him. But like
yeah.
Bo-Katan and having like the backstory and the episodes from Clone Wars, like I love her. Like she's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm saying is like Din Djarin is like little vanilla, like the character. You can only do so much with that guy.
Now, do you think he has, and I know we're going to go through each episode and this is sort of jumping ahead, but do you think he has, in a way, like gone too far away from like what made him cool at the beginning? Like he was a bounty hunter and like he was doing a job and he's a fucking badass, didn't care about anything. And obviously he grew to love Grogu and broke his own rules. But now, like, and by the end of it, like he's essentially like a good guy, like a straight up good guy.
Yeah.
Like, is that all right, or do you think he needs to like toe the line a little bit more?
No, and I think at the end of the season they kind of brought that back around and kind of acknowledged that like this isn't what I do. Like I'm not here to settle down and be like full on Mandalorian and watch you like pray to the forge or whatever. Like I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's now so much has happened. You can take. I mean, Bo-Katan's gonna get her own show. Like we're just whether animated or not. Like that's just gonna happen, right?
Well,
that's what we're setting this up for, because every time someone's successful in this universe, they have spin-offs. So like, remember they're supposed to do one with fucking Gina Carano.
Yeah, as long as you're okay, as long as you relax on Twitter, I would think Katie Sackhoff gets herself a spinoff show.
And she's been a great follow throughout this whole thing.
She's awesome. And one of the cool things, because she was the voice in Clone Wars too. Like, so she's already known and loved this character. Then she got a chance to, and it's funny, she went back and retweeted one of her own tweets from like 3 years ago, when it was kind of a vague thing about how excited she was, and she's like, you'll know soon. But it must have been when they told her like, hey, we're bringing you into the fold, like live action.
Could you imagine getting that call?
No, because you're like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I'm glad to be a part of this. No, they're making that show. And like, you probably don't even really put two and two together. And then they're like, no, we want you to actually be the character.
So, yeah, so you want me to like voice it? They're like, no, we want you to come and do it.
Which I want you to act in it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Chapter 2, or no, episode 2, chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore. This is, once again, Mando's trying to fix IG-11. He goes to Tatooine and visits Peli Motto, played by, is it Amy Sedaris?
Sedaris, yeah.
I actually really like this character.
I do too.
I like her quite a bit.
She's like his weird aunt.
Yes, and like, I love how she talks to the droids. I love how she like knows stuff, and she's just like
she's just like scamming. She's scamming people.
Yes,
she's a little hustler.
I love her.
You know,
yeah.
It's a great character.
And then this is where he gets his droid R5D4, which, great trivia, is the droid that Luke Skywalker almost bought, and then it started to fucking like whatever. Then R2D2 like zapped them or whatever, and then they gets R2D2 instead.
Is that right?
Yes. So if you go back to episode 4, the first ever Star Wars movie, R5D4 is in it, and he's actually the one that's about to get bought.
And then he said, you don't want, he said, what about this one? He's like, you don't want that one.
Yeah, because didn't he do, I forget, didn't R2 do something to him?
No, he was going to buy it. Yeah, C3PO did, but it was R2D2 did something to the other one. But he said, no, you don't want this one. It's like, basically, it's got issues or something. You know,
pretty fucking cool.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he almost went down that path, and instead he's with the Mandalorian now. So he wants to go bathe in the waters.
The living waters.
Yeah, the living waters. And like a decent enough episode, he ends up getting attacked. And, one of the great things about Star Wars is all the different creatures that come, like whether they be sea creatures or whatever. And then Grogu escapes out of there. Bo-Katan comes and saves him. And then when she saves it, because she like doesn't buy this shit, and she's like, whatever. But then she sees that mythosaur in the water, and the fucking eyeball opens up, and it's like, it's kind of scary. A scary little scene there.
And thing's huge too.
It's enormous, because like Mandalore has been decimated because the Empire was like, these guys are badass and they can fucking get us if they want to, so we need to destroy them. Like, you go back and watch Clone Wars and some of that stuff for that. But so like the first 2 episodes were like good. Like, they weren't great, I wouldn't say. They weren't bad by a long stretch, but they were good. They're fine to good.
Yeah, the first 2 were.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, I see where this is going. This will be good. But again, I don't know if we're doing silly or we're doing serious.
You're right.
Gotcha. That's where I was throughout this whole thing. Yeah,
the grief cargoes.
And then it all got to a fucking crashing halt in
episode 3, chapter 19, called The Convert. starts good, ends good, because you get some
The
good action
bookends.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good bookends with Bo-Katan and Mando and flying around and like both of their abilities to fly and all that stuff. But then this is just the long ass Dr. Pershing episode and how like the Empire's over and like you got to now it's the New Republic. And even Tim Meadows, who's great in everything, even Tim Meadows couldn't save this episode.
And it was so weird. You almost felt like they knew what was happening, bookending it with like 2 action sequences with characters. It was so jarring that you had to be like, all right, well, this was done on purpose. Like, because in the first 10 minutes, like, all right, we got them. They're gonna sit through the rest of this, hoping that it comes back, and it only comes back in like the last 5 minutes. So like they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew this episode sucked. They knew they had to get through all this information, which they didn't. They could have just do the thing where they do the beginning of the episode, like show the guy again, and then that's all you needed. You didn't need to bring him back. You could have just mentioned his name.
Oh, it was awful. Because this was like this episode was the only one that was like close to an hour. So even if you take the bookends of like 5 and 5, it's probably 45 minutes of nonsense in the middle. And you're like, all right, cool. Like Coruscant is like a crazy city. And then but I didn't like either character. I wasn't interested in either one at all. And oh man, that just dragged. It absolutely dragged.
Is the point that like the New Republic or whatever's going to be the New Republic is like they posing themselves to be really good, but at the same time, like they're torturing people and like doing all of these things that they say that the Empire did.
Clearly, yeah, they're flawed, but it's like I don't know. I didn't really give a shit about that.
Like, I didn't give a shit. No.
Like if you get into later, when we get into like sort of the early going of like the First Order, that's far more interesting. And I guess there is some overlap, but like it was fucking brutal. So that episode sucked, and like that's what drags this down to me. And that's why it's a 4, is because of that one. All right, so
that took it down a whole point for me.
Yeah.
So that I was like, all right, we're like 6, and I do that like I start with a 6 and then work my way back. Yeah. So like, all right, now we're at a 5 after these 3 episodes.
Good point. Yeah. So 3 points. So now we get to the episode 4, chapter 20, the Foundling, and this is sort of the 2-for episode here where Paz Vizsla, the guy with the fucking huge like minigun or whatever, his kid, after he loses a bout with Grogu, cool little storyline. Like Mando's trying to train Grogu like a Mandalorian, which is hilarious because he's just like tiny little guy, and he's like doing Jedi shit, and they're just like okay with it, but whatever. So after Paz Vizsla's kid loses to Grogu, he gets taken by this huge like bird thing and takes off. And then they like try to go and get him or whatever. But also Grogu, this is the episode where he has visions of like what happened to him during Order 66. And we're introduced to a brand new Jedi, one we've never seen before. Kelleran Beck, I think his name was. And played by Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. And he saves him. And some pretty cool action scenes there in that one.
And I thought that was a great, a guy who was universally panned by the Star Wars universe and is a bit of a joke to actually have a very significant role, no matter how small, like coming back and
pretty cool
as himself and doing kick-ass things. I thought that was sweet.
So that episode helped. That kind of bounced back a little bit. And you can do Order 66 1,000 times and see it from 1,000 different angles, and I'm in on it.
It was also like, watching the Mandalorians work together and like take down that huge thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Was that this episode? They took down the huge thing at the beginning and then did the other thing, the big birds. And then they gave the chicks to like the people, like the caption they gave. That was serving me like Thor vibes.
A little
with
bit.
The goats.
Also odd that they would camp out in that place, considering they almost got killed by the underwater creature. And then when that big bird thing came, one of them was like, oh yeah, this didn't go well the last time it happened. I'm like, get the fuck out of there then.
Do you think they need to be near water to do their whole thing?
Maybe.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Like in order to do their whole
that looked like a tough place to
thing.
be. That's not great. It's like living in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. All right, so now we get to the second half of the season, episode 5, chapter 21, the Pirate. You get more pirate action here, but you do at the beginning of this episode get a cameo of Zeb, the big creature at the bar, is one of the main characters in Rebels, and he has like one line. There's not really much of an introduction to him. They never say his name, and then he never comes back again. but it's just sort of a little tip of the cap. It's also an acknowledgement because Rebels takes place after episode 3, before like leading right up to episode 4. So a number of years have gone by, like 15 years probably have gone by. We have no idea what happened to this guy, and he's still fucking out there. He's still fighting the good fight.
And again, this is one of those like kind of subtle nods. Like they didn't have to say his name. They just gave him a line. And even if he was just in the bar, people would have noticed him.
Yeah.
There is one I think I saw. So behind him, on like the last episode when they go to the bar again, there's someone with a black cowboy hat sitting like way in the back, and I'm like, is that Dave Filoni? Is Dave Filoni like in it, like with a cowboy hat on?
Probably.
But he looks. It's funny. Like I can't tell if it's him or like Kevin Pollak because they kind of look the same.
Yeah, they do.
What was I going to say? So, but it was another one. Wasn't the guy who flew the X-wing to like tip them off or like give them the info? Wasn't Chopper in his X-wing with him? Or am I thinking of something else?
Oh, was he? I don't know. I know Chopper is in the Ahsoka trailer.
Oh, okay.
Chopper's definitely in that. I don't know if Chopper's in this. But you do get what's his name that was in last season of Mandalorian. So we'd already seen the guy pop up that he went to go and talk to. Carson Teva is his name. And so Grief Karga contacts him, and then that sort of gets this whole thing going. He's like, hey, we need a little bit of help. And long story short, they end up fighting off Gorian Shard. So they already, like, the pirates were in it in the first episode, and they kind of whatever, they wanted to drink and whatever, they got thrown out there by the Mandalorian. But now you get like a full-on fight with them.
But the whole point was like they were then working for somebody else. Like you find out that they were working for somebody else later on.
Yeah.
I
thought the end of this episode was really good. So episode, wait a minute, chapter 21, the pirate, right?
Yep.
So the end of this episode, so now you get Carson Teva, and he's like in outer space or whatever, and he finds that ship, and he's like, well, what the fuck's going on? This is weird. And then he goes in there, and he's like, this is where Moff Gideon was supposed to be, and it's really kind of creepy. And you can film outer space the same way you can film like underwater, where like you're kind of shooting it, and you're like, I can't really see what that is, and like you have to get closer to it, and things can pop up, and so it's kind of horror movie, like Alien,
very Dead Space, yeah,
100%. And then they're like, oh, it's like Beskar alloy or whatever, or Beskar armor, like something like. So it's like, whether you're thinking either a Mandalorian got him out or somebody with Mandalorian technology got him out, but that sort of kicks off this final 3-episode arc where Moff Gideon is now a player once again.
Right, which is now we're looking for him again.
We're ready for Moff Gideon, and then you get episode 6, chapter 22, Guns for Hire, and this is the Jack Black, Lizzo, Christopher Lloyd episode where Mandalorian and Bo-Katan go on a little bit of a side quest.
And with droids, and it didn't really matter to. I think the whole point of that episode was for them to get to the other Mandalorian crew, but they couldn't. They had to do this thing for this. And here's one of the things that I hope they stop doing is that Jack Black is immediately recognizable. Lizzo is immediately, like, even like if you just had Christopher Lloyd, like those of us like, oh my god, it's fucking Emmett Doc Brown, you know. But to have all three of them in the same episode just took me completely out of it.
Yeah, having all three of them was definitely a choice made by Jon Favreau, because I thought, like, if they played lesser roles, even like if Jack Black and Lizzo were a couple on like a certain planet, like, to me, great. Like, that's cool. Like, whatever. But there wasn't really a whole lot else going on in this episode. And they
super distracting.
Yeah. And they solved like a very who cares minor problem for them on like a planet that we never saw before. And we may never see again. And you do eventually get Bo-Katan challenging Axe Wolves, who's now with like Sasha Banks, and they're like this separate Mandalorian group. And because Bo-Katan doesn't have the Darksaber anymore, they're like, fuck you. But she does get the Darksaber back in this episode, so like things happen, but it was very much of a side, like wait till the final two episodes.
I would have liked to have seen Din Djarin and Bo-Katan fight, even if they were just for show. Even if it was just for show, I think that would have been cool. But it is kind of like a loophole a little bit, where he was like, well, the thing that took it from me, she killed that thing, so technically it's hers. Like, why didn't you tell her that weeks before?
Right. Which did happen.
It
That
absolutely
weird
did.
creature
But like,
thing,
why did
that's
you
what
wait
happened.
until
Yeah.
that moment?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just give it to her and be like, well, that's what happened?
Yeah, no, I know. All right, but then you get to the best, in my opinion, the best episode of the season, which is episode 7, chapter 23, The Spies. And you get introduced to the Shadow Council. Moff Gideon, Hux. It's like
Well,
Hux' kid.
that's
Hux's
Hux's
kid.
father.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's his.
Hux's kid, right?
It's his. No, the Hux you know from the movies is his kid.
Okay.
But the actor Donald Gleason, who's Brendan Gleason from Banshees of Inisherin, that's his
Yeah.
kid. But anyway, the Hux who you saw is played by Donald Gleason's brother.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, so like his brother is playing his father.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, there's a round and round you go on that. But so you get like this group, and so this is sort of the early forming of the First Order.
Mhm.
So the Empire's dead. However, or is it, right? Because they're talking about how, you go all over the place, and there are people that they're still on board with the Empire. So like this is what we
Right.
need to get behind. And one of the members mentions Thrawn, who is a massive character from Rebels. And there's been comic books and books written about Thrawn and everything else. And Moff Gideon's like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, like I don't really know about that. And they're like, no, I'm serious. And so we don't see Thrawn, but he's at least mentioned. We know he's going to be in the Ahsoka show because Ahsoka's obviously going to be after him. But this Shadow Council shit is awesome. And it's just like them getting together. But then some of the conversations they have too about cloning and what was it? Operation Necromancer or whatever.
Necromancer, which is pretty on the nose.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'll take it. So this is my take too. And
that was the whole reason for that stupid fucking scientist. Again, all you had to do was mention his name. You didn't have to give him a whole hour-long episode.
Correct.
You could have just mentioned it.
You didn't need it at all. Or you could have even done 5 minutes of it, whatever, if you wanted, but you didn't need to do a whole episode of it. But that part to me is Filoni did such a great job with Clone Wars and Rebels, and it actually made you want to like go back and like put watch the original trilogy again and sort of like
dare I say it, read a book.
True.
Because they have all these things that are canon that are in books, and you're like, I kind of should probably read that.
I should go back and read it.
Yeah.
And so now what I think he's doing is like there's some certain things with the last trilogy where you kind of roll your eyes about, like Snoke, like Palpatine coming back again. And I think Filoni's like, all right, let's figure this out. Let's try to
how do we make it make sense?
Yeah, let's get in on the ground floor of like who would have tried to get Palpatine back, like who would have cloned him, who would have created this Snoke character, and how do we go from like clone troopers to stormtroopers and all this other bullshit. So like I love it. Like this is the good stuff when you're talking about like connecting the whole universe together.
It was pretty cool. In the next episode, there was something that I really liked too, but we'll get to that once we start.
Okay.
Riffing
Moff Gideon also at this point he asked for backups against the Mandalorians, and he gets the Beskar stormtroopers. He also gets the, how do you pronounce this? The Praetorian guards.
Praetorian, yeah.
So these are the fuckers that we got that were protecting Snoke in Last Jedi and Force Awakens. They're scary as shit, and so they're clearly like hired arms, like hired guns.
Well, the Praetorian Guard in even the Romans or Greeks, where they were the personal bodyguards of the Caesar. So
Got it.
Asking for them, they're like the best. They're like Black Ops. They're like best trained soldiers you have. Become Praetorian Guardsmen. They had to be a certain height. They had to be a certain like build. It was a whole thing.
Sick too, and you get some really good fight scenes here. And so, also in this episode, Grief Karga rebuilds IG-11. He calls him IG-12. And at first, Babu Frick's in it, and then he's like, "Now Grogu can drive it around," which comes in handy because Grogu and Mando kind of like save each other a few times during all this.
And I forgot to mention, once they did give him the suit, that was Davy Girl laugh, belly laugh number 2 was the yes and the no.
Yes and no is pretty good. Yes and no was definitely good.
When he was like, "Get out," and he's like, "No," and he just kept like running. No, just kept running around. Like they thought that was the funniest.
No, it was. It was funny. So you do get a good fight scene between this. They all come collapsing down on Mandalore because Moff Gideon has like created this whole thing or whatever.
That was a cool shot when they were going down as backup.
Yeah.
and the other ship, the TIE interceptors, came up.
Yeah.
Like that was a cool shot. Like they went into the clouds and then they came out of the clouds.
Oh, this is without a doubt the most rewatchable episode for like cool scenes or even just the storyline or whatever. Like this was the far and away the best one. Paz Vizsla, he goes out a very honorable death.
Blaze of glory.
Blaze of glory. So like the two sides of the Mandalorians coming together. This is my other big issue is the way they set this up. The armorer, who we haven't even really talked about in this episode yet. The armorer, who's sort of been there throughout the series and speaks in like riddles almost, and then she's the one that really unites the two sides of Mandalorians, like that she's the one that's like, hey, Bo-Katan, she walks in both worlds, so she doesn't need to wear the helmet anymore, but she's still one of us. And you're like, she seems like she's up to something. And then so she's the one that unites the Mandalorians, and then they all get to a place at the same time, and Moff Gideon is like, great, you guys all came together, like this is perfect. Ends up just being dumb luck. It should have been an armorer double twist or double turn, but you
still might get that. But it was because where are they getting the Beskar? I mean, I know they're getting it from Mandalore, but they don't have the forge. So like, how are they?
But then she was like fighting pretty hard though. She had some cool fight scenes.
She was swinging hammers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, it seemed. I mean, I guess this is good because it seemed a little obvious, and then it wasn't that. But at the same time, I'm like, if these two sides they weren't going to come together at any point. And Moff Gideon even makes a line when he's talking to like his spy. He's like, they wouldn't work together. He's like, they've hated each other for centuries. So like, no, the armorer put them together, and then Moff Gideon just benefits because like dumb luck. Like, kind of lame.
It was kind of lame, but also we forgot Skinny Pete is a ice pirate, Mandalorian ice pirate. It's nice to see him back.
Yeah.
So he retweeted same thing that Katie Sackhoff did. So he retweeted like an old tweet that was like, sorry guys, I asked about it. Like I had this idea to bring Skinny Pete back for Better Call Saul. Like I was in talks to maybe do it, but it never really worked out. But I'm working on something really cool right now. So I can't tell you much. I can't tell you much about it, but if it works out, it's going to be awesome. Hashtag this is the way.
Wow. No shit.
So it's like, or the way or something. So it's like,
yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah, so this episode too. So Paz Vizsla is killed, and then Mando is captured. So like, all right.
Yeah. So my buddy Fridge, friend of the podcast, Fridge, sent me this thing. I think I sent it to you too. It was Paz Vizsla shooting his gun.
yeah.
And it was like, eat fucking bullets. Eat fucking bullets. You fucking suck.
Yeah.
What are we, 10 years old? I've seen every cock on the planet.
Eat fucking bullets, you fuckers.
Yeah, suck.
You fucking suck.
So I kind of thought that Mando might be like captured for like a while, and that might be like a storyline trying to get him back. But no, go to the finale, episode 8, chapter 24, The Return. Mando escapes pretty quickly with the help of Grogu in the IG-12 suit. You see the Moff Gideon clones.
See, this is what I didn't like. You see the tanks and you see there's cloning happening. I didn't like that he was cloning himself. It makes sense. It's better for the story, but you know what would have been cooler? If it was Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
If it was him. He was cloning him. Because they got in a fight. You might have been able to grab a sample off of him.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
But you also learned why he wanted Grogu in the first place.
Yes.
Is because he was trying to like have a tie in everything, like Mandalorian armor, like Jedi shit, like him.
They were missing one thing. Yeah. And where did he get it?
Where did he get what?
So he said they weren't ready yet, but they had been imbued with the Force. Where did he get it?
He also
that'd be interesting.
For something that was so important, they were destroyed very easily,
very quickly. Yes,
like just pop holes in them. They're all done. Like
just flush the toilet. They're gone.
Just we solved it. You're like, wait, what?
That was it.
So that to me was like, it was cool, and I'm with you. Like it would have been even cooler if it maybe was Din Djarin, but that was just like, it was, here it is, and then it's gone. And then he also destroyed the Darksaber, and I hate that. Like, sure, you can make the case like, well, now like you're gonna have to lead in more of like a, I don't know, traditional sense, or this would now make it so like don't worry about the dark saber. Like, so when the Skywalker saga rolls on or anything post this, there is no dark saber. But the fucking dark saber is cool as hell, and he
It
just
is
like
cool.
grabs it and smashes it like with one hand. You're like, what?
Well, I think now with Bo-Katan, now there's no symbol for it. I think now she's going to have to earn it. So
Yeah.
now they could start voting. They could start
Yeah.
figuring out a new way to
Yeah,
figure out who.
probably.
So she's going to have to fight extra hard to keep that now that that thing's gone.
Yeah.
And technically, she lost it. So she's not the. If she comes back without it, like, well, you're not the leader anymore because you don't have it.
Well, and then it'll be interesting. So in Ahsoka, which I assume takes place like right now or maybe a little bit later, like Sabine Wren's going to be there, and I wonder if Bo-Katan's going to pop in at all, and then Sabine's going to be like, "So what happened to that dark saber I gave you?" She's going to be like, "Huh?"
Well,
It's
what had
gone.
happened?
Funny story.
Funny, you're not going to believe it.
How much time do you have? Now this
Don't get
also,
mad. Don't get mad.
don't get mad, but this also ended in, and I know Star Wars is for kids, and I know I'm not the smartest person in the world. However, there are also times where the dialogue is so basic, it's insulting. Like it's so like, here's what, hey Mando, here is a house for you to stay at, but you will also have adventures. When you aren't on your adventures, please stay here. Like it's very like video game. Like,
Yeah, this is your
not
safe
even, like,
house.
good video games, but like, yeah, it's a safe house. But the way they explain the end, I'm like, okay, we get it. Like we kind of get it. Like they just wanted to reset everything.
Yeah.
Mando has a house where he's, but nobody's gonna bother him, and he's gonna kind of work for the New Republic, but not work for the New Republic. But if you need me, you can come get me. You know, like they just.
So now,
they
now he's free to do anything he wants, which
Yes.
is
Yes.
so that's great. But I love it when you see him sitting on the porch with his feet up. You expected to see like press X to save your game whenever at a porch.
100%.
You know?
It was such a video game like start. Like you just leveled up. You can't go back now. Like this is where like everything goes. This is where it resorts to. Like you load your game, you're here now. This is
Right.
what it is. Like all right.
Or if you die, this is where you'll come back.
you bounce back here.
Right.
And you and Grogu can go and leave. You don't have to choose your mission. Help out Grief Cargo with a pirate. And go into outer space.
Storylines don't matter anymore.
No, just do.
But now he's free to show up in
Yeah.
Ahsoka. He's free to show up in whatever Boba Fett is next. Whether so now he can be
True.
in the other ones too.
True. Do you think Moff Gideon is definitely dead, or do you think?
No.
Yeah.
If
they don't fully show it, they got to assume he
and
makes it out of it.
he's head to toe in Beskar. Like fire's not going to hurt. Like they have flamethrowers. But sweet flamethrower action in this series as well.
Yeah.
But if fucking Darth Maul's not dead,
That's true.
Yeah.
Darth Maul survived it. Well,
he got cut in half and fell thousands of feet.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
he's still alive.
Yeah. Well, he's dead now, but he
Well,
survived.
you get what I mean.
I got you, Ian. Yeah. Because I want to see a Moff Gideon Thrawn face to face at some point, whether that's in Ahsoka or wherever else. All right. How many seasons of The Mandalorian do you want?
5.
Yeah, because Jon Favreau was like, "Oh, there could be a million."
Nope, 5's good.
Because like, can you run all the way up to episode 7? Could you pass it? Could you pass that by?
You could.
You could technically be on the outskirts of it and survive it, and then
you could be. And then I would love to see Grogu as an apprentice, or at that point, he would probably be a master.
Yeah.
In the new Jedi Order.
Yeah, see, that would be interesting. Because like Thrawn disappeared for a long time. Like Thrawn was such a great character, but then they were like, "Oh shit, we gotta like literally send him on a boat with like flying whales and like get him out of here."
Yeah,
and that way he skips everything that happened in the original trilogy. Like there's no reference of Thrawn, there's no anything of Thrawn, but then he's gonna be back safe and sound. So like you could, if you want to really make a major jump with Grogu and Din Djarin, I guess you could.
I would love to see. So I know they've announced this new trilogy, so it's going to be like what 10, 11, and 12 with like the new Jedi Order, Daisy Ridley, like all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it definitely a new trilogy? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what they. I guess at that Star Wars Fest they were talking about a new trilogy, but yeah, I would love to see her like getting together any Jedi she could find, and then have Grogu who talks now because he's got to be like
at that point
100. No, he's good. No,
he's already pretty old.
He's what they say he's like 40 or something like that. Like he's 40 years old, and then so he's got to be Yeah, right. Because he's
Yeah.
already alive, so he's got to be almost 100. And Yoda was 800 when he died, so he's got to be like talking at this point, right? They just age slower.
Yeah, they could. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. How do you think, or how should Din Djarin die?
In service to, let's see, protecting Grogu, obviously.
Probably.
But I think it's one of those situations where like he just like sacrifices himself as in true Star Wars fashion to save others.
But like, I wonder, because like it's like in wrestling, right? Like to get a character over, like you have to beat a character,
right?
Like in movies and like in like these kind of things or comics, if like Kylo Ren kills him, or if like somebody
or the
like,
Knights of Ren, like
or the
show
Knights
up
of Ren, they smoke him out. That would sort of like bump them up way
because
way
technically he would have known, Kylo Ren would have known about Grogu if he worked with Luke as well.
Yeah, I would think so. Right.
Yeah, so he knows who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely probably work together at some point.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. Pretty good stuff. Anything else on season? So I
It's
feel
still good. It's still good.
Kind of giving it a 4, but I'm like, I liked it. I definitely liked it, and I loved episode 7, and I loved a few other parts, but like enough of it was like all that pirate shit. Episode 3, the Guns for Hire episode. Like, I don't know. You know, it's enough to have it a 4. It's a strong 4, but it's a 4 nonetheless. So, all right, that's what I got. Oh, you know what? Actually, I have a really good one of these for you.
Pick of the bomb. Pick of the bomb. Pick of the bomb.
Pick of the bomb. Would you like to kick, receive, defer, or you may choose at this time to defend a goal?
I will receive because I'm as equally as impressed with my pick of the pod this week, but I want to get it out of the way because I want to hear, because you're excited about yours, which is a rare thing.
Yeah.
So I started, it's a book, believe it or not, but
nerd
with a caveat. So I was looking at a book. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And it's written by Rick Rubin, master producer, spiritualist, one of probably what Dr. Dre calls the greatest producer to ever live, Rick Rubin, who, if you know anything about him, he's recorded every act like you've ever heard of in your life.
And he was in an episode of Dave last season.
He was in an episode of Dave last season.
Met with Biff Whiff instead.
Yeah, and he's like this incredibly like weird spiritualist guy, but he talks about like the creative process and like ways to look at it and like all of these things. And it's one of the most, for me personally, like one of the most important books I've read in years. But I say read, so here's the caveat. On Audible, if you use it's on Audible, you can use your free monthly book if you're a Prime subscriber, and it's read by Rick Rubin. So it's his voice, and I don't know if you've ever heard an interview with Rick Rubin. He has like the most calming voice.
Yeah. I love it.
He talks like, so if you get the audiobook,
that's awesome,
and listen to Rick Rubin for 5 hours, and you'll never regret it.
Love it. All right, very good. I have, believe it or not, another TV show. And I know what you're thinking, like, Keith, Jesus Christ, you're watching too much TV. There's so many good TV shows. I decided, I'm like, I caught up on everything pretty quickly, and I'm like, well, what else should I watch? I went on to Peacock. It's streaming on Peacock right now. Mrs. Davis.
Oh, is this, wait.
Mrs. Davis. It's, I think, only going to be 8 episodes, and they did one of these weird things where they released the first 4 this weekend, or no, Thursday. This past Thursday, they released the first 4, and then it's going to be weekly the rest of the way. So the lead is Betty Gilpin, the girl.
Yes, she plays like a nun.
Yes, she's a nun.
Yeah,
and she was in Glow, the show Glow with Allison Brie. They were like sort of like frenemies or whatever you want to call it. But the reason why I watched it, I like her very much. But the reason I watched it was it's co-created by Damon Lindelof, who's done Lost, Watchmen, and The Leftovers. So you probably should give it a shot.
Yeah,
it's bananas. So
and what it's like, it's her. She's a nun. Correct me if I'm wrong. So she's a nun, and she's like battling like an AI.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much.
The world is crazy, man. Like if you pitch this show to someone 50 years ago, they'd be like, "What the fuck are you saying?"
I can't pitch it now. I can't even describe it other than like Damon Lindelof and this Betty Gilpin. Like, so it's a good lead. It's a good creator. It's bananas. It's not as good as Watchmen or The Leftovers, but those are the 2 of the best shows ever. So the quick IMDb premise is Sister Simone partners with her ex-boyfriend Wiley on a globe-spanning journey to destroy Mrs. Davis, a powerful artificial intelligence. I bet you'll be hooked. If you watch the first 5 minutes, I bet you'll be hooked.
Okay.
Most people the first 5 minutes hooked me, and then you'll keep going. They're like probably close to 50-minute episodes, like close to an hour, just under an hour episodes. It's what else can I say about it without spoiling it? Because it is weird. Oh, so if you don't like a show where you uttered the phrase "this is fucking weird,"
Yeah.
then you don't watch this one. Like if you're out on that stuff, if you're out on like, well, this is bizarre, like forget it, skip it.
That was Legion for us.
Yeah, Legion was Legion was also like too smart, probably.
I think it was too much for me. Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this one, but I don't think it's. And there's definitely times where you're like, wait, what the fuck is happening? But I'm gonna see it through. I'm gonna watch the rest of this. So we're halfway through, I believe. And if you have Peacock, you can give it a rip. Mrs. Davis.
Okay, so I have one more question for you regarding so I'm looking now at Rick Rubin's discography ranked.
Okay.
Now, people have this, but I know, so one of them has System of a Down's Toxicity as his greatest produced album ever.
I would agree.
Why do you agree? That was the question. Why do you agree?
Because top to bottom, soup to nuts, that album has everything.
Comes with Prison Song, ends with Aerials. Like
Aerials, Chop Suey, which might be their best song.
Yeah, but that was like halfway down the album. Like it comes out with Prison Song that like dun 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 dun. Like that riff rules.
Is it Needles? Is that on there? It's a lot of one-word titles in that one. I think it's like 12 tracks, if I remember correctly.
That's so good.
Oh,
a weird drum thing at the end, a weird drum hidden track, but
yeah, it kind of goes off the deep end there, but whatever. Yeah, that's
Rick Rubin's awesome. Is the point?
What is your favorite System of a Down song?
Aerials, probably, or Aerials or Inner Vision. Inner Vision is one that it was like a B-side to something else. Like they never really released it.
Inner Vision.
Yeah. I think it was it was supposed to be on Toxicity, but it didn't make it or something.
I have that. Whatever.
So it was like in between.
Yeah,
in between Toxicity and the one with like BYOB and like.
So I love BYOB. Awesome. BYOB is fucking a great song. Every day I probably have a different one. I know yours isn't Spiders.
I thought they were a joke band. I thought this band sucks. I didn't get it. And then Toxicity came out and I was like, oh, I get it now.
Toxicity fucking rules.
Yeah.
Sweet Pea was another one I think was really good.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of good ones. All right. So next week we could do Evil Dead Rise if we both see it and if we both like it.
Let's commit to seeing it. Let's say to ourselves, we're gonna do this.
We're gonna wish it into existence. So Evil Dead Rise, good chance is next week. The following week is definitely Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
The Deuce or 3. The Trace.
The Trace. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Tell a friend, tell a dork. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Dork Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe, smash whatever you can. But be safe out there. And Rod, you don't give a shit about anything, do you?
What'd you say?
You don't give a shit about anything, do you?
Not really.